that's real. Tell me how you really feel. Now that you hearing the thrill. I was all on my own. Now we're looking at it home. Spit this bitch up from the dome. I look at we gone and this is the thrill. Welcome to the thrill. Give me something that's real. Tell me how you
What a sweet day! What's up, everybody? What's going on? I'm back with it. No, it's been crazy couple weeks, crazy couple months. But we are here live. We don't have Robbie today, so he will, unfortunately, will not be joining us. But never fear, we have our guest host here today with the Cliff Hanger.
That's right.
From JPW. Want to welcome him to the show. He's been on our show once before, technically twice. So you kind of made a special guest appearance on another one we did. But it's great to have you here, man. Thank you for obviously joining us on this show. Guys, if you don't know, before we jump into everything really quick, this here we talk about movies, we talk about wrestling, we talk about games, music, whatever it is we're going on today. We want to go ahead and talk about it. Major news and everything here. So please like and subscribe to the channel as always. Also follow us on our Twitter and our Instagram handle, rated F2, and the Instagram at the_rated_F. We're always posting, trying to get as much content for you guys as possible. And then Josh, who's also a co-host on the JPW podcast himself. Also, guys, listen to them. They have dropped a couple on Apple podcasts, so they have a few episodes out there. Great stuff that you want to hear about. Josh or Cliffhanger.
I know I respond to both. I've got so many names, and it's one of those things. Like once you hear one or the other, it's like I know who they're talking about. So it's no sweat with me, man. It's a pleasure to be on your show. Let me be completely fair. We talked about this for weeks, and like I said, I want to preface this really quick. It is not one to say that it's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of this, and the fact that we're doing this without Robbie. Like when he said, "Hey, just go have fun," I'm like, "Okay, we're gonna have fun." Today's that day, especially when you got a back cup of coffee. I think we're both wearing our yes. There we go. Cheers, my brother. And I think we're gonna have a hell of a time talking about what brings us to the table today.
Yes, 100%. And sorry about the audio if you guys heard that. I'm gonna drop my mic over here. But yes,
get it together.
I'm a whole mess right now, man. I'm still trying to reel up from the wedding. So, guys, we have a lot of big news, a lot of stuff we couldn't jump on right away. When it comes to DC, DC has actually made some big blow moves in the last month. Start off with, their new head of productions. They have some of the new animations coming out, movies coming out. We do want to talk and kind of before we get into all that. Obviously, it was we mentioned it very briefly on last week's episode, but talking about Kevin Conroy, I wanted to definitely bring this up with you here because I think we shared the same sentiment when we talked a few times in the past. Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman from the Batman animated series, the Arkham series, he did, so many projects. He appeared even on the CW show. He's meant the world to a lot of people. Dubbed the GOAT when it comes to the voice of Batman. There'll be many names that come up after him that will take over the mantle, but none who did it as well and maybe as iconic as Kevin Conroy did. So give me your sentiment behind a lot of this that we've gotten here.
Oh man, I think we have to go on record here that if it wasn't for Batman, the animated series, you and I would not be conversating today. I'm going to go forward with this because I think this needs to be discussed and why I have such a fascination for Kevin Conroy's Batman and why he's my Batman, he's everybody's Batman. But for me personally, I've got something that's called agnosia. And just to kind of wrap it up in one big bow, it's where my brain can process, and I don't have time to stop and think. It's something that it's really hard to describe. But if you ever hear me or ever had a conversation with me, I literally had to fight for my voice. I've taken years of speech therapy, and then I heard Kevin's voice, and I was at home. I felt the world was right. Um, Kevin was such a monumental part of my life, and I think we can, obviously say that uh, my love for the Batman animated series is very much there. Matter of fact, right behind me, right here, um, is Todd McFarlane when he took over the DC Toys license. It is Batman the animated series from the money shot, is what I would call it. That iconic, lightning down, and just he. It's hard to describe without getting emotional behind it for me. So, but I will say that if it wasn't for Kevin's Batman and Bruce Timm's and Paul Dini to bring that Batman to the screen and give Kevin that job, man, I don't think we'd be conversating about an iconic Batman. I think
100%.
We'd be talking about live action Batmans. But we have to throw that in there because what Warner Brothers did with that Batman IP, with the animated show in particular, it's one in a million. And the fact that Kevin not did the voice just for that show, we got Batman Beyond, we got Superman animated series, we've got Justice Unlimited. I mean, the list goes on and on. His credits, and I'm getting goosebumps. And I know that's going to be tough to see us, but I've got goosebumps talking about all his animated projects. I mean, for God's sake, I'll be completely fair. Him and Mark Hamill. When they're together, you heard the magic. It's like, yeah, it's iconic. Actually, and just to preface, I actually had a monologue in high school. Teacher told me, don't do the monologue, don't write it. I was like, I'm still going to write it. And I did the Joker because I was playing Kevin in the back of my head, responding to Kevin. And a little known fact, and you and I have had this conversation in character before. Oh my God. If Kevin were here right now, I would be astounded with every little bit of enthusiasm that our dear Batman is alive. And he's alive and well. But that monologue that I did was based off of a Killing Joke. And that was something in my head Kevin and Mark were doing. I'm so glad they did that in reality, and we had that movie to watch. Again, Kevin, for me, just to wrap it in one big bow, Kevin's my hero. And when I saw the news that day, I lost my shit. I bawled. And just thinking about it now, but celebrating. I actually just watched a little bit of Batman the animated series. Two of my favorite episodes, actually. Heart of Ice, which was the Emmy Award winner, with Mr. Freeze. That was the Mr. Freeze redefining origin right there. And then you had Feet of Clay, and I love those two parts right there when you have Clayface. Honestly, I know when the Joker shows up on screen, it's going to be a good time. You know it's going to be a good episode. It's the other villains in that show, and Kevin played off of that really well. And I loved every minute of it.
I think you hit it on the head, though, when it comes to it. Like, he could play the role very well. He could feed off of all the energies and kind of roll with it. It never felt forced when you would hear the shows and the card. He never had to really force it. And one of my favorite, it wasn't in the animated series moments, but with him was when he was on another guest show. It was on a talk show, and they had him do the monologue for The Dark Knight, which is one of my favorite Batman movies. And he did the Dark Knight. He did Dark Knight Rises, and and then the one with the Dark Knight with him when Dent dies, and he's telling Gordon to make it seem like he did everything. That monologue, hearing Christian Bale do it was awesome. Hearing Kevin Conroy redo that monologue with his iconic Batman voice, it it hit my soul because you could just
Yep.
hear the passion behind it. And I think that's one
Yeah.
thing about him. Every project he ever worked on was a passion project. I think
Yeah.
he knew that the Batman. I don't think when he took the role as Batman, he knew how well it was gonna run with and how iconic his voice was gonna be. I think he definitely appreciated in the
Yeah.
aftermath of everything.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you hit it on the head earlier again with the, without him in this role, we're probably not talking about this. I'm probably not even a Batman fan at that time because
Right.
that show came out in, what was it, like 92, if I'm correct?
92. Yeah.
And
92.
I was only a year old when it came out.
Yeah.
So for me, that was one of the few shows I would watch. It was Barney, Power Rangers, Batman. Those are my three
Right.
shows that I went in
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
So, and there's videos of me jumping on top of my couch trying to do the I'm Batman, I am the
Yeah.
night, I'm vengeance, everything,
Yep.
all those moments. And
Yeah.
Kevin Conroy's voice did it for me. It was like you said, home. You would hear the voice, you would know
Yeah.
that someone's ass was about to be kicked. And you knew
Yeah.
it immediately. And I would
Yeah.
watch it. I mean, even when the show was passed and then they're going to the Justice League Unlimited, and a few other projects he worked in as Batman again, his voice was always like, you hear him like, yep. And then I would watch another show that they were doing Batman and it wasn't his voice. You're like, who's that?
Right. Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is I read the books. And every time I've read through a Batman comic or a graphic novel, that's all I heard. That's all you hear.
Yeah.
And he's just that, something Joker. I can't stop you. Like, and you hear that, and then it's like, oh my God. And another, I really want to point this out too because I think it's really important. That Batman saved Kevin too. Kevin was gay in Hollywood.
Yep.
He
Which
was,
at that time was a big no-no.
was a big no-no. Yeah. And then, that duality, and he explained it really well. And, I was going to buy, and this is one of the sidebars to get to this thing here. I was going to go get tickets to MegaCon because Kevin was going to come down, and I was like, I got to meet Kevin. Like, I really want to meet my hero, and just tell him what he's done for my life. It's not just my life that he inflicted a good sense of positivity to. He had a community of Batman fans, of DC fans, LGBTQ fans. If I said that, I hope I said that properly. But to that gay community, and he was a hero to just everybody. He's personified what being a hero is. And there's actually commentary. I don't know if you saw this one, but there's commentary on Batman Gotham Knight, where they did the anime style for the Batman Begins in between the Dark Knight. And there's commentary.
I haven't seen. I heard about it though.
Yeah. So if you listen to the commentary, he tells the story about how 9/11 had happened. He was going to the restaurant to help out. The firefighter goes, "Oh, you're not Batman," and he goes, "Yes." And he does this iconic line. He goes, "I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman." And the guy, everybody stopped, and they all clapped. And firefighter goes to him and says, "How does it feel to be Santa Claus?" Like, he was just such a persona that you really like. When I watch different people go and meet him, he was such a gentleman. He was such a sweetheart. And I think, between his death and Chadwick's death, Chadwick Boseman, those two are the most shocking because they literally did not put their personal stuff out there. These are people at the end of the day who really wanted not just for themselves to thrive and be happy and fill them with a joy, or a sense of joy, I should say. But man, he did it for every community. He did it for everybody. I know that he did it for the two of us sitting here. So I just want to say cheers to Kevin Conroy. Thank you for all the memories that we have. Oh, man.
Definitely voice to be missed. No one will replace that. Not in the same iconic, and it's not in our lifetime. the same way he did. So definitely cheers to him. We do want to continue. It's kind of hard to transition from that, but with DC still on the topic of today, a lot of stuff, like we mentioned, has changed, and they put a new producer or head of DC. DC finally stepped up, and I think there's documented conversations between me and Robbie here that DC needed to do this. DC finally went and got their Kevin Feige. Finally, they did it, and I can't say enough how happy I am to see that. Peter Safran and James Gunn are the new head of their productions, which was huge to hear that. Both
absolutely.
of them have done, picture perfect products of what we want to see when it comes to the DC world. I think they have both have a hand in even doing other things like James Gunn has been in DC Marvel projects. I'm sorry. But to see that and see them jump into the head of this and running not only just their live action, but their animated series, and if I'm correct, are they doing the heads of a lot of the video games as well too?
So I was hearing something about that. They're taking over the whole entire slate, movies, animation. To your point, video games, not comic books that we know of just yet. Jim Lee is still the head of DC Publishing. Which these guys alone, when I heard that James Gunn, this is the really cool part is, when he got fired from Disney and Warner said, pick anything you want to do. And he chose the Suicide Squad to do. I had a feeling something was talked about.
In the works?
Something was in the works. I've had a feeling. And regardless of the way that the Batgirl cancellation happened and, all those things that had, slid through the cracks. This is probably the best news that we've gotten. Honestly, you can't.
100%.
Yeah, you can't beat this news. So he's going to take over video games, I think, but they want to do something different with video games, and they want to start making videos canonically fit into their DC universe, which is something that if they do it right, the MCU has not done. We've got Disney Plus shows for Marvel, but they haven't fit it into the video games. However, having said that, Marvel on the respective side has a very cool collective amount of video games. But man, oh man, nothing. If you get these characters right, these are iconic characters that I agree with DC, obviously, that these characters are so beloved. Why haven't they not gotten their fair share? So when I got the alert saying, "Oh my God, James Gunn and Peter Safran," I was freaking out. I was like a little girl in the beauty parlor. I guess how they would feel, right? And a little kid in the candy store, because think of all the different things that they can do. And oh, by the way, which I'm assuming is going to be a topic later, Superman has come back. So under their tutelage, with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Superman is back.
And you just made mention to that name, Dwayne Johnson. He has a lot to do, and I think he's going to have a lot of say when it comes with James Gunn on these projects. Because Dwayne The Rock Johnson, you put some respect on that man's name, because he is going to jump in and take control of everything that they're going to do with them and run with it. His production team has been on the money. I know a lot of people kind of gave Shazam their but the kid, he's a kid as a superhero. End of discussion. Let's be real. Think of it. I always tell people with and I had the exact same conversation with my brother about this. If you were 10 years old, if you were 11 years old, and you were given a gift from the gods to be a superhero, how are you going to act? No one's teaching you. No one's sitting there saying, "Oh, you got to do this. This is what you got to do. This is how you use the powers." The kid learned the powers on his own. He has to figure it out on his own.
And
I would be very childish.
Yeah, I'd be the same way too. I'd be like a little kid in the candy store. And what Zachary Levi did with that character under the production of The Rock, because it was made by Seven Bucks Productions. It's his movie. The Rock understands these characters. I think Rock goes on record and says, "I'm a DC fan. I love Superman growing up." So he's his own version of Superman. And I just got to see Black Adam the other day. I didn't see it opening night, but I did see it Friday. Let me tell you something about having fun in a movie theater. That was probably the best time I had with watching a DC project. And that's me as a Batman fan. That's me as a Superman fan. That's me as a Wonder Woman fan. Black Adam was probably the best work that he's done, no matter what critical, criticisms there are. And he understands these characters, and he understands the fans. I mean, The Rock has worked and worked and worked for so many of the fans, not for Vince McMahon, obviously, because wrestling and comics. How would you think they tie in? They tie in now. They tie in right now. I can't even say that it was all The Rock for a moment, if I have to take it all away and be like, hey, these DC characters. But he embodied Black Adam. He knows Shazam comics, clearly. And he took a chance on not just the JSA, which, by the way, were the best part of the movie. Dr. Fate with Pierce Bronson, standout. Eldris Hodge.
Really quick before you continue, that is one of the best casting out of everything they did.
Yes.
That was one of the best castings. I haven't seen the movie yet, just because of a lot of things going on. But him as Dr. Fate couldn't have been any better of a choice. Yeah, no,
it was such a good choice, and no one can question it. He had a lot of fun playing that part, and oh my God, some of the choices that they made in the movie, it works. It works. And I got to be honest, and I'm more of a Dr. Fate versus Doctor Strange guy anyway.
Yes, 100%.
They did Dr. Fate so much justice that I wish Doctor Strange can do. And he's got 2 movies with and without Avengers. He's in the No Way Home with Spider-Man. And they just couldn't get Doctor Strange right, in my opinion. So the fact that they got Dr. Fate right, perfect.
I think
Perfection.
I'm really excited to see with now James Gunn running everything and Saffron. You're looking at 2 guys who, and include the mind of Dwayne Johnson, and anybody else that they added to the mix of a lot of these stuff. You got to think about it. These are people who are now student of the games, who are fanboys themselves, who are probably just as geeky about the comic books and the shows and the movies and everything that we grew up on. I'm sure they were pretty much on even further back. So to sit there and have them all love it and be a part of it, that says a lot. Because when you're looking at, especially as being a head, Kevin Feige, with all respect to him, he is a Marvel fan. He's a huge Marvel fan. He understands and respects it, which is the reason why the linearity of how he did their worlds worked out for them. Marvel is they're not in their own world like perfect. They have a lot of their flaws. A lot of movies did not do as well as people wanted them to do. And a lot of stuff doesn't make sense when you really look at how the comic book was written versus how the movies do. Now, keeping that in mind, it's how you present those information. So if you're going to change something, how are you going to change it to fit your timeline, to fit your mode, what your end results are going to look like? So I'll just an example, Wakanda Forever. Have you seen it yet?
I just saw it yesterday.
You just saw it yesterday? Oh, you were on the
mission. I just saw it. Yeah. I was on a mission to catch up. I was like, let me see Black Adam, Black Panther. I'm just going to do both.
Yeah, do them both. Might as well. But if you catch the character role of Namor, his storyline is a lot different. His story is very similar to that of Aquaman's. And in the movie, they did change the story a little bit. They changed the way his arc is. They kept the character to the money, but his story arc, his villain arc, was a little bit different. So it fit the mode of the movie, which is the reason why I bring that up. I think with these 2 at the head of DC, though we have a lot of these other movies that we're going to lean on to kind of set it up for what they're going to do. I know they have the Flash movie that's supposed to come out. That's supposed to, in my eyes, I think Flashpoint can make or break what DC is trying to do. I think in this specific time, I think it's going to make it, because even given what Ezra Miller has done, I think you find a way to maybe edit that ending and bring in a new Flash, because
Yeah,
Flashpoint is meant to change the whole timeline of
right.
everything.
Well, and I will go on the fence and I will say that Flashpoint should be what it's called. I would honestly go and say that it needs to be called Justice League Flashpoint, only because you have a Michael Keaton Batman, you have a Sasha, God, I'm gonna butcher her name, Sasha Calle as Supergirl. I mean, like you have all these different characters in there, and let's be fair though. Ezra is a really good performer, just not all there. And
Not
what
right now.
what they did, because it's unfathomable why he got away with what he got away with. But I'll be completely fair too. Flashpoint is going to come, and I'm hoping they change it up to Flashpoint. But man, oh man, I think to your point too, that movie is just going to sell, and it's going to sell the DC universe a little bit better, and it's going to look a little bit brighter because, contrary to popular belief, DC with more adult tones is a very bright universe.
Yeah.
It's a very bright universe where things are looked at like, and I get it, like these are gods among people versus people among gods, because Superman, it is a god complex, but given the choice that they can go with when they do make the Superman film, you can make Superman very relatable and still have a presence on the screen. And I'm hoping that James Gunn, because let's be honest here, he made Brightburn, his little passion project that was the reverse of Superman. What happened to Superman turn evil? And I have not seen the movie. I'm not a big horror guy, but I've heard nothing but great things about Brightburn. And that alone, even with the Suicide Squad, even with Peacemaker, which, by the way, top notch show on
Yes.
for that connected universe, top notch. John Cena steals it, and that's John Cena's perfect casting right there too. That's the breakout role of a lifetime for John Cena, and and just the satisfaction that James Gunn from a creative side and Peter Safran from the business side, like that screams Walt and Roy when they came up with Disney, when they came up with the Disney Studios. So I'm excited to see that. That is something I think we're going to see a long time coming. And honestly, right now with the MCU going through what people are not liking, because this MCU phase is not the greatest. I don't know if it's done on purpose like that, and if it was done on purpose, then great. There was choices that were made, but those choices, let's be honest here. Again, let's go back to DC being the forefront of popularity of iconic characters, not just superheroes, but supervillains.
This graphic alone says the world. Jack
Exactly.
Nicholson as the Joker was the greatest villain that you could find at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with Jack playing the Joker in his time, and you got Heath playing the Joker in The Dark Knight, and Joaquin playing the Joker, which, by the way, I'm sure that you know this, but Heath won for Best Supporting Actor. Joaquin won for Best Actor for the same part, the same character. So it has never been done. DC has a lineage of characters that are not just spun off on Batman alone. And I think if Marvel really screws the pooch on this, that DC could come back in a nice form of fashion. Because let's be honest, MCU Phase 4 has let the fans down, where DC projects have been really, really good this year. And I think that the tides are reversing because, Avengers were B+ players, and now because of the movies, they're A+ players.
Yeah.
And the same could be said about DC and the reverse, where I will die on the hill for this one, but I'm a Batman versus Superman fan. I am, but I like the Ultimate Edition. So I'll sit down and watch 3 hours of the Ultimate Edition. I wish that Zach changed the title to Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, and that would have been the perfect Batman.
It would have been better. For what they
would have been better.
They transition for that, it would have been a lot better. But I understand what they were doing with this.
Right, I get what they were going with it too. But again, I die on the hill. I'm in the minority. I love Batman versus Superman. I also like Ben's portrayal.
That too. I'm on it with you because me and Robbie is probably watching this losing his mind. But
he's not a Batman.
Gun at odds. he did not like that Batman vs Superman movie whatsoever. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think. Oh,
So
go
I
ahead.
think
Go ahead.
we're in the same
We're
edges.
on. I think we're geeking out over here. That's all good.
I think when you think about it though, when you think about like that, what that movie did, like it should have been like into your to what you just said. It should have been Dark Knight Returns because that's what that movie was kind of depicting, that he was returning.
Yeah.
They gave that grittier Batman. They gave that that older Batman that's seen some shit kind of Batman.
Yeah.
I think it was for me my only gripe about it was just that it was that timeline of a Batman where Batman should have been younger because Superman and
Yes,
Batman are the
I agree.
same age.
Yes.
It should have been a more if you want to keep the darker tones, you could have done the darker tones with a younger Bruce.
Yes.
But as it was,
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
Ben Affleck did a great role as he
Yes.
impressed the shit out of me when he came
Well,
to
he
Batman.
went through. Yeah, he went through the whole thing that Michael Keaton went through. Because it was hard to do. It's like you can't have a fucking comedian play Batman, and then look what Michael Keaton did. The same thing happened to the Ben Affleck. Oh, he screwed up Daredevil. First off, I'm a firm believer that he worked the best that he could with what he was written with.
Yep.
So that was that character, and he played the hell out of Batman. He is one of my favorite Batman actors. But obviously, Michael Keaton aside, and you can kind of just pinpoint all the different actors who have done these iconic characters. But in terms of this universe where you have Henry Cavill as Superman, which that conversation hasn't been done apparently, hasn't been wrapped up yet. I saw a report saying he's not done negotiating, and I'm thinking, oh shit, you're gonna piss off a lot of DC fans today.
No, because on that same report, it's not that he's not done negotiating. He is signed on to be Superman. He is back to be Superman because he did a video, and The Rock shared that video on his actual reels, not a story. It was an actual reel, and he did say he is back in that story. If you haven't seen it, go on his Instagram, on The Rock's Instagram, and he's posted it there. But I don't think that he's not done negotiating because he is in fact playing that role. He wants to do certain projects. Let's spade's a spade. Henry Cavill's a nerd. He's a geek with us. He did the Witcher project, which he's played the games, he's watched the movies. He read the books. Him being a part of this show was reason for it.
Right. That was a passion project for him.
It was a passion project for him. When the reason he's not in that show no more is because when the director doesn't align with what the actor who's a big geek about this is saying, no, that doesn't make sense. Why are we doing that? It's going to take away from the story of this.
Yes.
And you don't align with him,
right?
You're going to piss him off because guess what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do a project that you're going to butcher. So I think with him being on the role, I think his negotiation is that he wants a lot of say in what the Superman's projects are going to look like. I think, which makes a lot of sense. If you're going to get anyone to do it, get a guy who's a big Superman geek.
Right.
And he wants to work with you, not against you. He's gonna say, "Hey, this doesn't make sense. It's gonna ruin what the fans are gonna expect of Superman." Superman is already, like you mentioned, a god complex. Every time they feel like, "Oh, Superman's getting weak," they give him another power that he just jumps with. So I think he can really set the tone with what Superman's gonna look like going forward. And I think this is it. Just to see him back in this role I'm geeked up about it.
Yeah, no, I was. So when I saw him in Black Adam, because let's be honest, Dwayne Johnson spoiled that in numerous interviews. But I don't know if you've seen the scene, but the fact that he came back and the way that he came back, oh my God, get ready for a new DC universe. Honestly, a fresh take. Because with Flash coming out, you can do that soft reboot. It would still work under Henry Cavill. It would still work for Ben Affleck. Honestly, I'm more advocating for Robert Pattinson Batman because he is younger, but I know that universe is not going to coincide. Peter and James made a very explicit point that they're taking over the main continuity, anything side story. However, The Rock had said these characters can be multiversal and they can cross over.
I'm telling you right now,
I'm excited.
This is the reason I'm so excited for this, man. Because when you think about the movie, and I'm gonna jump into this next topic about it because it literally catches on with what you're saying. When you think about what DC did, Marvel and DC have very similar aspects. Marvel
Yes.
focuses on the multiverse in regards to the universes. DC has always looked at the multi-earths. So when you
Yes.
think about this, when the Robert Pattinson movie came out, they said in an interview that it was Earth 2 or Earth 3, I think it was.
It was
That
Earth.
this
I think it was
Batman.
Earth 2. Yeah, Earth 2 for sure.
So this is now think about this. In Flashpoint, he goes through all those different Earths, which is the reason why we're going to see all these different Batmans. Ben Affleck's Batman was already confirmed to be in that one. Michael Keaton obviously was confirmed to be there, and a few other iconic roles are going to be coming back. So think about this: you're going to bring in all this Flashpoint scene, and you're not going to bring in a Robert Pattinson as a movie. You know how well if you can figure out. Because I know they have to change a lot of things right now because of Ezra Miller and a few other what has happened. Now, if you put in that perspective, you can literally smash because Ben Affleck was kind of iffy if he's gonna come back as Batman.
Yeah.
So you can literally say, okay, you know what? Just do this Flash project for us, show yourself here, and then let Robert Pattinson's Earth Batman take over as the linear line. Where he has all the memories of what Ben Affleck's Batman did, but he's a younger Batman. Like if he was there, you can do that.
Yeah.
Why
I
couldn't you
agree.
do something like that?
No, I am on the hill with you because I've kind of said it when they announced that. I'm like, I think they're going to because I mean even Flashpoint Paradox, the animated feature, did a lot of that. It made that New 52 universe from that classic stuff that they were trying to branch because the animated stuff. It's weird how Marvel can rival with DC's animated stuff
Yeah.
with perfect live action, and DC's really got some good animation. But Flashpoint Paradox did it really well, and they made that work. They made it make sense. So I have a feeling we're gonna get that tone, that style. But with the many reports saying that Ben's not done because we're getting him an Aquaman, Lost Kingdom,
Yeah.
next year, which I'm excited for. I'm not a big Aquaman guy as far as the movie goes. I think Jason Momoa does a spectacular job as Aquaman, and he's got a passion project within DC that he wants to do.
I know
On the
you're in the same
Lobo
boat with
side,
me.
yeah,
Yep, I was just about
Lobo.
to say
Let me
that.
tell you something. The main man, woohoo! So I'm hoping that happens because he can do it. And I don't think it would not make any sense, kind of thing. Because where I think, from a comic book standpoint, where DC actually knows what they're doing with the multiverse and the multi-Earth situation, and where Marvel, it's hit or miss. Marvel's very hit or miss about that. In the comics, so it's like, I think if they nail it right, because you don't have to do multiverse the whole way through, just do it on Flash, reset what you can, take the best parts of what you had, get the better parts in. I mean, I can Frankenstein this whole DC universe right now with Henry Cavill as Superman, Robert Pattinson as Batman, Jason Momoa as Lobo, and I would go as far as fan casting Zac Efron as the new Aquaman if they were to go down that route. I think he can do it.
I
I think
think
he can.
listen. Why can't you do Momoa as both?
You know what?
Because
I would advocate for both.
Lobo's character, you can CGI a lot of his other body, but
Yes, yeah,
the makeup stuff. If you just do it right, you can get away with Momoa doing both roles.
yes, I agree. And the fact that personally, he sounds like Lobo. So
Yes.
if they get him to do both, great. If not, great. I think we're still in for a very wild ride with DC. I think so far, to your point, with The Rock being concerned and James Gunn and Peter Safran, I feel like they're going to get casting right. I feel like they're going to get stories right, and I'm not banking on Oscar performances. Like I don't know who wants their superhero movies to go to the Oscars every time. Like I know I used to, but I'm like they're not meant for that. This is not. This is meant for pure entertainment.
Yep.
Especially now that the world of superheroes has become a very big thing in cinema. I'm not asking for Oscar-worthy performances. Obviously, if they're not deemed it, special instances would be like The Dark Knight, Black Panther from Marvel. the Batman, Joker. Like I can, the list can go on and on of that. But
Yep.
if most of these movies are just going to be for popcorn and they're going to be entertaining, I want my movie to be a damn good entertaining movie. I think James Gunn, Peter Safran are going to nail it out of the park. Honestly.
Oh, 100%. I think 100% this. And what I love about having these two guys as the head is, and it's the linearity of it. James Gunn
Yes.
knows how to make a movie, because he did it with Marvel, follow the line and timeline that you wanted to flow with. So with this, adding in now what Black Adam did with Shazam, adding in now that you brought in Henry Cavill back as Superman in that same movie, you got Flashpoint still coming, you have Aquaman still coming. I believe they want to do another Wonder Woman movie with Gal Gadot. Peacemaker show, which is still
Season
linked in
2.
with Suicide Squad. There's still a lot of continuity that you literally can conduce with these movies. And I feel like that adding in the mixture that you have these actors and actresses who love the characters and who are in love with the comic books now, even. You're going to have people who want to do this right and who want to flow with it. Momoa, I think, is the most easiest going guy. And if he's going to sit there and start running with anything, you can have him as Aquaman and go, yep, and just take over as Lobo and go, yep, because it just fits him. His character is so well. I mean, it's just him. It's like Aquaman is Momoa with the trident and the suit. That's it.
Yeah,
like
I agree. And you know what? As people bash him for this, I thank Zack Snyder for his contribution to that Aquaman, because that is his Aquaman at the end of the day. And and again, I will die on the hill with Aquaman being, if I had to do a top 10 of DC films, like Aquaman would be like smashed in there. I would say at like maybe like 6, only because of the way they flowed the story. You could see that it got good with, after the fact, with Justice League. And I'm not talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, it's that first one that we got. But it made up for it in a lot of ways, seeing that, orange and green with that trident. And then you got Black Manta, and then you get Ocean Master.
Yep.
Like, it is.
Both roles were played beautifully by both those characters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that they got, man, I don't want to butcher names, but the guy who played Black Manta, he did a really good job. You got Patrick Wilson, who did a spectacular job as Ocean Master, who played freaking Night Owl in Zack Snyder's Watchmen. That movie was a great movie too. Yeah, it was like, I think. Yeah. And they got Nicole Kidman to play Aquaman's mother, Queen Mira. Was it Queen Mira? Yeah. Hang on.
No, not Queen Mira.
Yeah, it was the. I can't remember her name. Mira. I know. Mira is Amber Heard, and I get that. Which that's a whole other can of worms that I think we can, chalk on the shelf and be like, maybe recast her, no controversy. But I think, to that point too, with the linear, equation of Atlanta. Thank you, Queen Atlanta. Thank you. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to butcher this. Yeah. Well, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. I don't have a book right in front of me to be like, oh, let me just, but I feel like with these characters that are being done, and that they can make it make sense. I think we're going to get we're going to see something really cool. I feel like we're going to see that.
I think everyone geeking out with it, actors, producers, when everyone's in the same page, you're going to definitely see this project what it's supposed to have, what it should have been. Zack Snyder, I think, to what you said, he doesn't get enough credit for it. I think he should have taken over completely for the movies with Gunn and Safran, because I think
I agree.
They had a lot of great ideas. And Justice League, if you see his cut of it, amazing cut of it, because he showed other superheroes that have been involved since the beginning. When you look at Martian Manhunter,
right,
who's one of my favorite superheroes is Martian Manhunter. His powers, his character, even is just so great to see. You don't get enough. I don't think they give him enough credit.
No, absolutely not. And I really wish that that had been the movie that we had saw, and I know that was probably the movie that we were going to see before everything hit the fan for Zach. But I'll be completely fair. I can watch that movie, sit there for 4 hours, and be like, best time of my life.
Yeah,
That movie did it really well. Like, he made it make sense with the Nightmare, with Dark Side, because the whole Steppenwolf arc and the original Justice League, it just didn't make any sense. You hear for Dark Side, but you don't see Dark Side, and that's what bothered me a little bit. But the
yeah.
fact that we have Dark Side is one of my top big bads of the DC universe,
Puts
who,
Thanos to
contrary to
shame.
popular, yeah, he does. He really does. And he came first, out of that, and he was made by the same comic book writer, Jack Kirby. So they're
Oh,
both the same character. Yeah, they're literally, DC came up to Jack Kirby and said, "Let's make new gods." And when that happened, of course, you get Thanos, who movie wise right now is done really well. Uh, Wait till you'll see Darkseid, though. Just watch an animated feature with Darkseid in it,
oh
and he's
God.
just menacing. He's just menacing, and I love it. I love it. DC has a collected cast of supervillains that complement, but but again, to that point of God, man, it's good to be a DC fan right now. Honestly,
Right
it's
now,
good to be a DC fan right now. Absolutely,
I think for the first
hardcore.
time as a DC fan, because I've always said proudly I was a DC fan. I didn't care what anyone said. Um,
Yeah,
I think as I've like, I can take a deep breath. I can get a breath of fresh air now because they do so well with their comics, with their cartoons, with the video games. Um, I want the movies to do well, and
yes,
I've always been the glass half full kind of guy. And I always saw the good in a lot of the projects because I can see where they the intentions were, and if they missed the mark, they missed the mark. But you know what? I can see what they're trying to do, and I go, okay,
yeah,
let's run with it. Let's see give it a shot. I mean, it may not make sense now, but let's see what the end results are. And I think with DC, they get such a bad rap that they get criticized, they get killed on it by
yes,
fans,
absolutely.
and they go, oh, okay, let's scrub it away. Like this time, just own the mistake and run with it.
Yeah,
Marvel. I have to go back to Marvel. They took L's. They took some major L's. Avengers 2 was not great, but what they
no, yeah,
do, they
they
take
fixed
it
it.
in, they
Yep,
fix it, and they take it with them because
yeah,
it's not like you've already put the product out. You can unsee it. So you make mentions to it,
yeah,
but you push
right,
it far back, and you just keep
yeah,
running with the linearity because that movie doesn't have to be great. And I think DC has a bad habit of they need to drop these 600 million worldwide, opening night, and they're still grossing about 150
hmm
million every week, and you don't need that to make good
no,
movies.
absolutely
Sometimes
not.
a bad
No,
movie is just as equal to a really good movie because that bad movie set up the
right.
next line of movies. And I think they have DC has to get into how to get their minds right because there's just too many hands in the pot.
Yeah,
Every
I agree,
director
and
wanted
that's
to work together but not work together.
right, and and I still remember the Comic Con panel where they brought everybody on board, like, oh, we're gonna do the Flash, and we're gonna do the Batman, we're gonna do Wonder Woman. I remember all these different directors, and they all vamoosed, and they've changed up. And to your point, with too many, there's too many chiefs and not enough workers, kind of thing.
Indians, yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. I didn't want to get to that point, but here we are, Chiefs and Indians.
It's
Cowboys
true.
and robbers, cowboys and Indians are a thing, my friends.
Yes, there are. I know it's not the politically correct term, so I'm sorry if I offended, but it is.
Yeah, I'm. It
Literally
is
what
what
it
it
is.
is.
You have too many chiefs that are trying to say, "Well, let's run this way," and then the other one goes, "Let's go this way,"
Yep.
and the other one says, "No, I like to go that
Yeah.
way." And you can't do that. You have to find the linearity and the one
Yeah.
voice move. And I think now with looking at how we've talked about most of today is Gunn and Safran, seeing them appointed. I think these two understand they know the assignment. They know what they got to do.
Yeah.
Now they got to run with it. Some of these
Yeah.
projects have already been in work, so now what all they have to say is, how can we keep this flowing in this line? Because if it's doing this,
Absolutely.
then all this movement of all around can't do it. You can't.
Yeah.
You're not going to get those movies that you want. You're not going to get the same reviews. So I think this is
Right.
where they're going to definitely take a hold of the reins and say, we're going
Absolutely.
straight.
Well, and now I just want to see what they can do because we talked about the movies, but their sub products that they're going to start doing with animation and video games. I just want to see how it's all going to tie in. That would be really cool because I know that MCU has kind of started that way with Disney Plus, but again, we're talking about video games now and animation. With Warner Brothers has a history of really good animation too, especially with DC. So I really want to see like maybe we can get the stuff that can't be translated on live action, but you get the voices of like Dwayne Johnson, or you get Henry Cavill's voice, or Gal Gadot's voice, or whoever they decide who's going to be Batman after this whole hoopla. But I think it's going to be something. It's with everything being said and done with Peter and James. It's something that I really wanted to be a fly on the wall when it came to that conversation, because of course the conversation had to happen when James left Disney, when he got fired for Disney. And I think he took a cast of characters from the Suicide Squad, C and D list villains with, of course, Harley Quinn, and he turned them into gold. I mean, look at Peacemaker. And this was, way before he got the appointmentship to being the head of DC. So I have a lot of faith in James Gunn. And on record, Kevin Feige was the first person that he reached out to and said, "Hey, I'm the new guy at DC." Kevin Feige said, "Great, I'm looking forward to that." Because at the end of the day, they're all still friends. They all still handshake each other, and they all try to, we're all one big fandom, even though we've separated it from, they're DC or Marvel. I like good things. It just so happens that DC has good things. I go on record, I'm a big MCU fan as well. But again, to the point that I really just want to see DC thrive now. It's going to be so incredible to see James Gunn, not just, being the big guy, but he's going to be able to produce and direct. He's going to be able to do stuff, which is Kevin Feige has never done. Yeah, Kevin Feige's never been able to sit in the director's chair to do a Marvel film because he's paying attention to so many different other things. But I think James has a very good understanding of, okay, this can go here. If I direct this here with this project, let him do Superman. Let him tackle what Zack Snyder was trying to tackle. Let him tackle Superman. Let him tackle Batman. Let him tackle Wonder Woman.
Let's bring back Zack Snyder and let's let them both work on this together.
I agree. I agree. Let Zack be the director and let James write and produce, obviously you got Peter Safran doing the producing part, but let James Gunn on the set and say, okay, we can do this or we can do that, because the visuals that Zack Snyder still have are still some of the best in Hollywood.
Yes. Oh my God, I love them.
So you got Zack's visuals, you have James Gunn's storytelling, because he's a great story. I mean, he took the Guardians of the frickin' Galaxy to new heights.
Put them on a new platform, man.
Yeah.
Let's be real, really quick on that. Guardians of the Galaxy were not the on the top.
No.
They were like so far below anything you can mention of Marvel, and now they're the hottest thing in the world. Who else could do that?
Yeah.
I don't see anybody else doing that with DC.
No.
I don't see. Bring back listen. You want to impress me with DC? Bring back the Wonder Twins. Bring back the Wonder Twins.
I would, but I wouldn't make a movie out of it like they were trying to. I'd be damned if they made a Wonder Twins. No, I wouldn't. If you know what, I'll do you one better. Put it on HBO.
I don't even want to put it on HBO. But you know what? Add them to the world. You can do another Justice League movie and you show them. They don't have to have a own movie. Give them a quick synopsis of what their character looks like. Let it run with it.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to get a character that no one really knows or cares about and you put him on a platform like that? He did it already. I think he could do it again. There's so many. You made an earlier mentioning that there's so many characters that are not tied in with Batman that have so many big roles. Superheroes, villains, and all that. You can literally bring in a character like the Wonder Twins or like I'm blanking on a lot of the names right now because I'm just so. I'm the same way right now too. I'm in a flurry right now. But think about that. These are characters you literally can just bring. Let's do this. The Flash. They've already showed. Why am I blanking? Captain Cold.
Yes.
They've already made mention a little bit to it, because if you look at the Justice League movie, they showed on one of Flash's suits, or one of Flash's computers, they made mention of the freeze gun that he has.
Yeah.
And actually, I think, if I'm correct, it even talks about like temperature. His suit is able to withstand a certain temperature, but
Correct.
because
Yeah.
that gun hits absolute zero, he can't deal with it. Obviously, him being a speedster, it messes with him.
Right. And
So
and go ahead. Go ahead.
you know what I'm saying? You can literally make that character so much bigger as the big bad, because they did a great job in the
Yeah.
CW and the Arrowverse.
I
So
agree wholeheartedly. I agree.
you can bring that character and amplify him even more. Him, Gorilla Grodd already, because I think if I'm correct,
Yes.
they made mention to Grodd too in that same movie.
Yeah.
Bring him in too.
There's a lot of people that they've already made mentions, and they're not even Batman villains. Again, let's be completely fair. With DC, where Marvel has good heroes, DC's got damn good villains. And the fact that James was able to take some C-list, D-list villains and make them matter, like Polka Dot Man's a Batman villain, for God's sake.
Yeah.
King Shark, he's a tweener between Flash and Aquaman, of course. More towards the Aquaman side of things, but man, he did that, and that was so cool hearing and seeing King Shark done in that form of fashion. He took Peacemaker, and that is a whole other animal,
That's
so
another beast on its own.
yeah. So I mean, like, I think, and with the characters that he did, imagine these other big characters, especially big villains and big heroes, because the greater the villain, the better the hero.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's where Marvel kind of doesn't get their villains. Like, they don't understand what they have. And I've noticed with the MCU Phase 4, there really hasn't been a definitive villain in any of the movies. DC, it makes it very well known who the villain is and where their stakes are at. And it doesn't take away any credit to the heroes and villains that were written on the Marvel screen. But if it's done right, see, that's the thing. If it's done right, look at the Riddler. Look at the Penguin. Like, these are characters who you would never thought. And like, we think of Jim Carrey, we think of Danny DeVito. Now I think Colin Farrell, who did a marvelous job. You couldn't even tell it was him.
Job.
Amazing job in the Batman. Paul Dano, threatening and menacing and terrifying as the Riddler. Like, Matt Reeves did a great job with that. So I would love to see, I'll add this one to the mix. And obviously, it goes back to that point. Well, there's too many people. I think creatively, you can still make something and make it mean something. And you got Matt Reeves, you have James Gunn, you get Zack Snyder. That would be the perfect storm in a movie. Of course, who knows? Who knows? Again, Peter Safran is going to hold that budget, and he's going to tell James, here, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. And it really, like I said, it really reminds me of that Walt and Roy relationship, because those two, one did creative, one did the finances. And I'm telling you, man, like, this is something that could work for years to come, but they have to get it right. I'm not going to say they're going to get it right all the way through. There's going to be bumps in the road, but to your point earlier, they have to just keep going. Where Marvel, they had some hiccups and they had some bad stuff, but they made it fit where it mattered, and they recognized it. I'm not even going to say it was too late. So sad, but they came back to it. They made it make sense, and they moved on. DC with the big hiccups right there, where they like, oh, we're gonna do this. Batman didn't sell enough tickets, and I feel like that's what they had to. They had to be flat on their ass to realize that not all the time you're gonna have a big hero sell tickets.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that if it's done right, you're gonna have these heroes sell tickets, because you can put a Batman movie out there, but let's look at Batman Forever. Let's look at Batman and Robin. They hold near and dear places in my heart, but they were not the best. They were not the best. So you can
hit the same way that this hit.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the fact that they brought Michael back into the role,
says a lot.
Michael Keaton on the set of Spider-Man was saying, yeah, I'm Batman. I'm still Batman. Like, he makes that well known. Like, he is still very much a Batman of our time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it, for all of this, in one big bow of DC goodness and treats. I think when Zaslav made that investors call and said, "Hey, we want to give DC their due. We have iconic characters," and the fact that they found, I get the bedside manner. There's a lot of people complaining about the Batgirl situation, and I just want to say this: how in the hell were you going to put a Batgirl movie that was presumably bad to begin with, right, in front of a freaking Superman sequel? How do you do that? Make that make sense. This is coming from a Batman fan. Why would you put Batgirl in front of a Superman movie? Why? It to me makes zero sense.
You could have included her in the Birds of Prey movie, and it would have
Yes.
hit the same.
Yes.
It was meant to be that movie is meant to be a woman casting. You could have easily put in Batgirl right there, or Batwoman,
right,
or and any of the bats. You could have put the female bats right in that mix of it,
and it would have worked fine.
Of this, to make it, give it its own movie to sit there. Batgirl, Batwoman needs to be included either in a movie with Batman, and there's no disrespect to the character. It's just that their timeline, Batgirl specifically, came to life because of Batman.
Yes.
So you gotta include her into the movie. Same thing goes for Batwoman. Batwoman is his cousin. You gotta include her in a movie where Batman goes missing. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, well, we're gonna add in a movie for her." How are you gonna make that make sense?
Right, exactly. And chalking up from the wrestling business, the whole thing is you have to make your storylines make sense, otherwise you're going to lose people. Long-term storytelling. I'm okay with if they did a few things that would make sense, but I wouldn't do it out of the sake of being politically correct or anything like that. Make it make sense. Make it enjoyable. Don't do something because you're going to get an audience to come and buy your shit. No. Do it because it makes sense to the character. Do it to make sense for the story. For when they said Batgirl, is going to come out, like, of course you get excited, but let's be honest, Batgirl is not an A+ character. It wasn't being produced and directed by A+ directors. They did Miss Marvel, which let's go back to let's go back to the MCU for a hot moment. Like, I'm glad that they gave them platforms, but I got to be completely fair. As a Jewish guy, I just want good storytelling. I don't need representation everywhere, because if you sacrifice representation for what the story contains, you're going to lose it. So where it's nice to have, in this case, it's nice to have Moon Knight in the MCU being a Jewish guy. The story fell flat on his ass at the very end. It didn't make sense. And I'm like, this is cool that he's this, but to me, this is not, I don't need representation right. Like, I don't need representation all the time. It's nice to have, it's nice to, be included, but let's be completely fair here. These are iconic characters that, again, you have to make these characters make sense. You have to make them fit into the story, into this bigger universe. We can't just, sit there and be like, well, she's got the same stuff as Batman and be done with it. Okay, great. But what makes her
different? What makes her
different? Right. Or what makes her weaker? What makes her rise to the challenge? Again, Supergirl and Superman, they're one and the same, but they have very different ideas of the world. They have different takes. And matter of fact, when they, ever cross that bridge, which Flash they will cross that bridge with, Kara Zor-El was a teenager when she came to Earth. And she was already adult enough to remember the planet Krypton being destroyed. Baby Kyle, he was coming down, case in point, as a baby. So it was different viewpoints. And of course, like, you get down and, you're still, but they make that make sense. So representation aside, I really want them to focus on a good story. Because again, Batman's not going to sell the tickets all the time. But putting someone that's not going to, you can have some representation out there. And I know this is probably a controversial subject, but the representation for me, it doesn't matter as long as the story's good. If you have a good story with the representation, great, do it. I'm all for it. But if you're just going to throw representation, you're going to throw in ideologies out there that don't make sense to a story, don't do it. you're going to lose your audience. And I think that's what James Gunn and Peter Safran are going to start invoking. They're going to start invoking their audience coming back, their core DC fans. And to be completely fair, I wouldn't even see it as far as DC fans. Cinephiles will go out and watch these movies because look at what's going on in Hollywood right now. There's a lot of crap going on in Hollywood because it's all politics. Unfortunately, it isn't our media. It isn't our stuff. And I think when Zaslav nailed it on the coffin with the Batgirl cancellation, could he have been a little better about it? Yeah, I can agree. He can be a little better. He could have, but make no mistake.
That message a lot more sentimental. Like, hey,
right. Because there was still work. People were still getting to work. But the other thing too is, what's to say you can't have her Batgirl into the universe? What's to say you can't have Brendan Fraser's Firefly into the universe? Like, you don't have to make a movie centered around that. You can place them in, and it would still fit the overall narrative of the DC universe. And and again, this is just a minor gripe, but why the hell would you put a Batgirl movie before you put a Nightwing or a Robin story out there?
Yeah.
Is beyond me. Especially if you're going to put a freaking painted mural of Batman and Robin in your movie and not talk about the big elephant in the room. Since we've gotten Ben Affleck's Batman, where the hell is Robin? Because I think they can get Batman and Robin. Yeah, I think they can get Batman and Robin done right under James Gunn. They can make that shit make sense. They can make it make sense.
100%. If right now, because they've already made mention of Jason Todd, Robin, you can, if you want to spin off the timeline to make it make sense for the movie purposes, and have him as the first Robin, and then he finds Dick, and then Dick is the new Robin here, then hey, cool, and then you just bring in the Red Hood later on.
Right.
That makes 100% sense because
that would right, and that would make exactly, and to that point too, it's again, like when these got canceled, because we have to talk about the cancellations for a hot moment to get to this point. I felt like you trade the good with the bad and the bad with the good. That news that we got, at the time was very like, oh, okay, didn't bother me, not one bit. And it's not saying I'm not a fan of. Again, I'm on the record. I love Batman's cast of characters. I love what they were doing, but if it was going to damage the product, don't do it. And I understand that. Because you and I don't put out shit to put out shit. You have to make it make sense. You have to make it work to a point where you can gravitate. Because I would go on record when with JPW, you have to make that make sense. And if you do something that's going to lose the fans, what are you going to do to gain them back? What do you like? It's the same thing with DC. How are you going to get these fans back? They're doing the right thing. They're doing it now.
The trust was gone, so that you have to bring them back. So I was 100% good with the Batgirl movie being canceled because it didn't make sense. The timeline didn't make sense for me. So let's try to hey, if they can find a way to add in Batgirl in another way, and you can add in the Robins, because let's be real, it was Robin, then it was Batgirl. So you have to introduce the Robin characters because it was always, for the longest, it was always Dick and Barbara.
Right.
So
do you remember the Batman, the Batman cartoon?
Yes.
Have you actually sat there and watched the whole damn thing?
Yeah, I used to watch it every week when it was coming out.
Right. So you remember how they did the whole let's add in Barbara kind of thing right then and there, and then they went into that Robin mode and they made Batman and Robin important with Batgirl being important. They can do that. They can do that too. But the fact remains, they just had to make sense. Like that cartoon made it make sense. They could do it with live action. There's still a chance. There's still a chance.
I think James Gunn and Safran have a chance to fix that. I can't wait to see what they do with it. I'm gonna go on the record and saying that I have high hopes that every movie that comes out, because I was reading something just before we went on that his effect won't be felt until after after the Aquaman movie is everything is what Gunn is finishing or is going to be working on, because all these other movies are already in line and were in production when he took over. So he's just trying to finish. He's just trying to whatever they had.
Well, and we're big wrestling fans. It's the same thing with Triple H when he took over SummerSlam. That was still Vince's show, but you had the Triple H, fingerprint all over it.
Yeah, he just
little sprinkles. I think that's exactly what's going to happen with James Gunn. And I go on record as a big wrestling fan too. we're not going to see the full force of Triple H's WWE until WrestleMania, Royal Rumble time. By the end of this year. If that's going to be the same thing with James Gunn after Aquaman, perfectly okay with that. Perfectly okay with that, because I'm not expecting those movies. If they do well, great. If they don't, great. But I do know for a fact that after James actually has the plan, sends it off to Warner's and says, this is what we're doing, and starts making that stuff, that's, to your point, I have high hopes for that. Because with everything else on the table, the whole Ezra situation, the Amber Heard situation, all these different situations that are going to inflict these movies. They're going to.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the course change, with the change of direction. Perfectly okay with it after the fact. We gotta let these movies happen, though. I think Shazam.
You already had them scheduled in place and when they were going to come out, and already things have been backed up because of COVID and a bunch of other things have happened.
Yeah.
So it makes 100% sense to let them run through, let them get the feel of it, and then figure out how you can go forward with the same stories and just
I 100% agree
and make it make 100%
sense. Agree.
The idea is to make it make sense. I think Marvel did a great job with it. I think DC is going to have the same effect.
Again, hiccups in the road on both companies, but if they just if everybody can come to the table and say we can agree that there's going to be wins and there's going to be losses, we just have to go through the trying times. That's why I love DC so much, is because they've had trying times. They're right now they have a lot, aside from the Batman property, Superman's really not a hit. Unfortunately, it's not. And that's something that I really want to see change, because there are great Superman stories out there. Death and Return of Superman, Superman, Man of Tomorrow. I can rattle off a few really good Superman stories in that form of fashion, and those would work really good if they're done properly again. Anything with Brainiac would be really good. But, aside from the fact that if they had hiccups, and I'm so glad that they're course changing right now, now's the time to do it. So again, to your point, I'm perfectly okay with, if Aquaman's a bad movie, okay, it's a bad movie. But I know what's going to come next. I know how they're going to try and make it make sense. So let's see what happens. The future is ever so bright for the world of DC right now.
Yes, so bright right now for it. Well, guys, thank you guys for tuning in, checking in with us, and I'd love to see you guys continue going. Then thank you, Cliffhanger, for joining in with us as special guest host. I know originally supposed to be a guest spot with Robbie. I think I definitely know he's watching this and enjoying it. Probably spun his head off when you said you love Batman vs Superman. But
Robbie, let's if you are watching this, I just want to say, filling in for you was an honor when you told me go have fun with this. So I just want to say thank you. If I made your head spin, I'm about to get a bottle of Terramana over the week. We can talk Batman versus Superman over some Terramana. How about that?
Oh.
That way, when we argue, it's gonna look silly, fun, but we're DC fans at the end of the day, and that's all that matters, right there, brother.
Exactly, 100%. All right, guys. So please, guys, I've said it earlier. Please do it again. If you guys can just like and subscribe to the channel, stay updated with us whenever we go live, whenever we drop some new content for you guys. You guys will be up to date. Again, our Twitter and Instagram handles right here below. Also follow JPW's production as well. They also drop their podcast on Apple. We will also be dropping our audio as well on Apple later today. So just keep an eye out for that as well, guys. We'll be dropping it on our Instagram when we go ahead and put it on Apple. Josh or Cliffhanger Josh, whatever we like to do.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, just whatever. That boy, whatever. We have good times, and we've had some really, unique, interesting moments where I think, just to round off the conversation, that DC means a lot, not just to the fans, but us personally, when we do our stuff. So DC is very much involved with my life. I know it's involved with yours heavily, on the opposite side of things.
Yep.
And I can't wait for Ground Zero. That's where you're going to see a lot of the action. If you're like a big, superhero guy, you want to see big telltale stories right there. Ground Zero, December 3rd. That's going to be my plug. I got a match with Zion Phoenix for the rubber match from Chains, so I'm hoping that's going to be a standout. And I'll be completely fair. After this, I actually have my personal trainer coming in. I've got my ring set up. So, guys, I'm already heavy at work. I have to say, Felix, and again, Robbie, if you are watching, and I sent you a video and before we did this podcast. It is such an honor doing this for you guys and making sure that you guys thrive the same way that you want us to thrive. I couldn't ask for a better spot than what I'm in right now. So thank you guys for letting me have this platform and sharing this platform with you, my friend. It's always an honor.
Always an honor to have you, man, and thank you for being here. It's been amazing. Guys, like, subscribe, drop some comments on here. If you guys have any additional input you would like to put into this conversation, please drop into it, because we would love to go back and forth with you in the comments, because we have a lot still more to say. Not enough time to say it, feels like.
Right.
But until next
I feel
time,
like, yeah, and I feel like I was going to say, if it ever came down to it, because there's always going to be news.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just, you know who to call. You know who to call.
As you sit on your Batman cup.
Yeah, I'm always ready. I'm always ready, man.
All right, guys. Well, Josh, till next time, everybody else, you stay safe and have a great weekend and holiday coming up.
Yep. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, guys. Many blessings to your family this holiday season.
All right, guys. Till next time.
Wow, this is the thrill. Welcome to the thrill. Giving you something that's real. Tell me how you really feel. Now that you're hearing the thrill. I was all on my own. Now I'm looking at it home. Spit the dish up from the dome. I'm looking, we gone, and this is the thrill. Welcome to the thrill. Giving you something that's real. Tell me how you really